Can you feel this?
Definitely feeling something.
Amber, congratulations on Novocaine. I watched it last night and I thought it was so much fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, seriously, the way that Novocaine just like blends so many genres together and does it so deftly, I was really amazed by that. What for you, when you got the script or however you were attached to it, like what about the movie made you want to say like yes to this?
There are like endless, there was nothing for me to say no to about this movie, first of all. The first thing was that I saw Jack was attached to it when I got the email, and immediately I was like, yes, I'm doing this movie. And my agents were like, you should read the script first, because that's important. And then and I was also a fan of Dan and Bobby, and I thought that like the movie was so unique and fun. It's like, obviously I'm a huge fan of like genre movies and franchises and all that stuff, but this kind of has all the fun of that while being an original idea, which is it's so unique. And just even like the concept of like watching Jack do these action sequences where it's like, as actors, all you're taught is to convey the pain, and so to like have to kind of watch him rework this world of like, how do you do an action sequence and take those hits and be in character but not do that part. It was I thought that was so unique and fun, and Dan and Bobby are so great at blending genres. If you've seen if you've seen Villains or any of their other movies, it's like it's all these concepts that on paper you could not describe or make sense together, and yet somehow they do. So it's like there just was absolutely nothing to say no to for me.
Well, I think it shows, honestly, and it looked like everyone involved had a lot of fun. Can you talk to me about the set experience of filming every day? Was everything to script, or were there areas of like improv that happened?
Yeah, it was both, I would say. I mean, Dan and Bobby were very encouraging of like setting an environment where you could feel free. I feel like we kind of had to like, okay, let's do it this way, and then let's try it this way, and then now, whatever you feel.
Yeah.
And it was such a great way to kind of feel free in that way, and you would definitely think like connect to your character differently when you have that sort of environment. But I think like a movie like this, it's very easy for it to feel overwhelming, or for it to feel like way too big, or, it's like, when you're doing so much, especially that's kind of like uncharted territory, I think, or even for me, playing a character like this is so different. I think it's easy to feel a little bit like afraid of that, but Dan and Bobby really kind of early on set this like, we're having fun, and everything is just so simple, and it all feels really, it like was fun to shoot this movie. It was like a really nice experience. So that just kind of made everything go by a lot easier for me, at least. I had a great time.
I mean, I think it shows, and as much of this movie is an action comedy, like, I think my favorite part about this was the central romance of it all, between your character Sherry and Nathan. Can you describe to me what the bonding experience was like for you and Jack in order to make those scenes kind of like hit?
Yeah, I mean, starting off, it was like, we have a connection by way of our mutual friend Dan Trachtenberg, who was the director of Prey and directed the first episode of The Boys. And all through the process of shooting Prey, he would like mention Jack to me and just be like, Jack is a guy you have to meet. He's so wonderful. He's such a good guy. I feel like you guys would be so great in something together. And anytime he would see Jack, I think he was like having those same conversations with him opposite. So we both we have Dan Trachtenberg to thank for this pairing. And I think so it kind of started there, that like I just really had wanted to work with him for like years. Yeah. And we didn't actually meet until we were both signed on to this movie for the first time. Okay. So he was signed on, I signed on, and then we had a lunch together in LA, and that was it. And then we were in Cape Town, and I think we just got really fortunate in the way that like we found out really early on, I think, that we were just very compatible in kind of the way that we work and the way that we approach characters. And it was really nice to feel like, you had a friend. I think very instantly we were just like, so best friends. And it was so good to, I think it was nice to feel like you have someone who's like going through a situation with you like that. It was our first time shooting in Cape Town, and the movie really does live or die on this relationship, and like if you are bought into this like romance that drives Nate's character to do all the things he does and you know, all of that. So it can be a lot of pressure, but I think it was just so nice to have a partner like him, and we just got really, really fortunate. We also had a lot of rehearsal time. We rehearsed for like 2 weeks before we started shooting, and then our most intense scenes were like the first week of shooting together. So it was also like we got thrown in the deep end very quickly.
I think my favorite scenes of Sherry have to do when she's being her most vulnerable, like when she is starting to get intimate with Nathan and he sees her scars, which is such a guarded thing for her, and you can kind of see it there. And even when the realization comes about Sherry's connection to the heist and kind of like that moment. What was it like for you to play a character like Sherry, of where, you know, you are jumping back and forth of like, are you feigning this relationship, your connection with your brother, and just the moral complexities that comes with her?
Yeah, that was like my favorite thing about her, is that I think her journey really is one of vulnerability. And like, she's somebody who is very like obviously guarded, has a lot of, she's very, you know, got a lot of walls up, and I think is caught by surprise when she has this experience with Nathan. And my favorite line in the movie is when she says, you know, we're all hiding something, we're just looking for someone that we can show it to.
Great line.
It was
Seriously.
so, I love that line because I think it's so, I think it's so true, and I think it's really true of their relationship mutually. I think they're both people who have learned how to protect themselves, and all of a sudden in each other's presence, like, don't have to, and that's, I think, weirdly alarming as much as it is disarming. And I think that's a really special thing also when you find that in real life, like feeling seen, I think is so special. And they really have that with each other. You know, I think they see each other in a way that Sherry has never been seen before in her life, or felt like genuinely loved by anybody. And so, you know, I think that's enough to kind of set her off on this journey. And it's not when you normally see from a character like that. You know, normally like the female love interest in a movie like this is just, that's all it is. And so for her to be afforded those complexities, I was so grateful for her.
Well, those complexities and honestly badassery with the stunts, especially towards the second half of the movie, you know, kind of taking into gear. Can you tell me about the process of the stunts for you? How does it compare to previous projects you've been on? Yeah,
this was so much easier for me. Really, because it was just all on Jack, and I really felt for him. I relate to him. I have been there. But this, I think it was really nice for me to be in an action movie and feel like I was physically coasting.
Yeah.
You know, I was definitely not the one doing the heavy lifting, and it also kind of really like reignited my passion for action movies. Like after Prey, I think I kind of just like took a moment. And this really reminded me like how much I love that environment, how much I love working with stunt people. We had an amazing stunt team on this movie. Stan Amir, our coordinator, and Ratza, our fight choreographer, and my stunt double Leanne. They were all so amazing, and just kind of being in this environment, telling these stories, really reminded me like how much I love it, and just getting to do, you know, the action that she had, and still being able to play like a character that has her own kind of grit was so, that to me is the thing that I love the most. And so it was really like, it was a really fun balance to have an experience like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like it whet your appetite for action movies again, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask. Collider, we love Prey, and I know we have definitely been waiting and clamoring for Prey 2. Have there been any talks about a sequel?
I don't know what's happening. I genuinely don't. I also want to do another one.
Yeah.
I would be happy to do another one. I love Dan Trachtenberg with my whole heart. And I love that world, and I love that character, and I think that there's some fun ideas out there that I've heard that are very cool, and I'm really excited. You know, he has obviously Badlands coming out this year, so I'm really excited to see that, and whatever Dan does, I will always be his fan.
So what would you like to see Naru tackle in a sequel if you had it your way?
Well, I think we just have to, you know, I think we have to hope that will become real, and we'll just wait.
Okay, well, last question for me. Because we live in the multiverse crossover age, what would you rather be a part of? A Prey alien crossover or Kerry Loudermilk making a cameo in Avengers Secret Wars?
Oh my gosh! Okay, well, I would love to be Carrie again. That would be so. I loved Carrie. That character and that project changed my life forever. And I would love to do that. That would be so much fun.
Marvel at us.
Marvel, call me.
We're available. Thank you so much, Amber.
Thank you.